I started shooting film many years ago. I started with F2s and F3 Nikons. So what actually is fashion photography? So fashion photography really is about photographing clothes. Photographing clothes for clients and brands and depicting them in such a way that they're organised or editorially that allows them to see these pictures depicted either in magazines or on campaign boards or billboards or actually in a lookbook. Essentially, fashion photography is all about selling people's and brands' items to other people. That's essentially what it is. They're all trying to advertise their products and trying to get people to buy them. And the range that I just mentioned are the three, which is lookbook, advertising or editorial, and that's how it works for me. So a lookbook is simply it's still a shoot, it's an advertising shoot, but it's with the focus on just items in a book that goes out to suppliers who would like to buy X amount of items. So it's done in a very simplistic way. You might have some 2 or 3 editorial key lead images that sets the style. But apart from that, it is either studio based on plain backgrounds or it's on location based with nice backgrounds. But essentially the model is slightly demure, not doing too much, not editorial in terms of the way they're running around and doing things. It's about how the items look, nice and clean so people can buy from those. The other style of fashion work that I do is within advertising, and that is depicting items of clothing within an environment that's used for advertising purposes. So for example, if I'm working with an agency or a production agency, they will come to me and say, look James, this is what we need, this is the mood boards, these are the looks, and this is what we really need from you on the day. And there's not really a great deal of opportunity to deviate from it, but the ideas that are coming to you is because of your style. Your style is what they've bought into, and that's what you really need to focus on, but there is less opportunity for you to be creative in that. The creative has already been done by the agencies, and really the client and the agencies have already signed this off, and you are there just really there to deliver your technical abilities and your skills in delivering the content that they're looking for. Now the style that I do on occasion, which used to be more prevalent than it is now, is editorial. So for example, these days online there's many magazines that are online, and there's many people shooting for them, and pretty much they're all looking the same. The only difference is a clothing item. The creativity is pretty much the same. But in the days gone by, the creative editorial photographers such as Lindbergh, such as Ritts, such as Albert Watson, such as that whole raft of them, Klein, Meisel, all the ones that I used to look up to, they were the great big editorial photographers, and they'd be booked on massive editorial shoots. Now it's interesting to know that editorial photography doesn't necessarily in general pay a lot of money, but if you got your pictures into Vogue for example, then you would make a great opportunity for yourself, because people see your credit down the pictures, on the sides, and the credits with all the other creatives in the team, and that would eventually lead on to other companies seeing your name and then booking you to do an advertising contractual shoot in fashion, maybe more editorial, but it'll be more than likely within advertising and lookbook. Settings to master when shooting portraiture or fashion photography, or essentially people photography. So one of the tips I would suggest that I use for mine, so coming from the film background, I would always have to use a light meter, take the exact reading, then underexpose by 1/2 to 1 stop. So when I went to the lab and I could push it, I'd be able to keep some of the detail, because if it overexposed, there's no detail in the highlights. What I've learned to do now is I still do the same thing in digital. So what I will do is I still take a light reading, whether it's light meter or camera. I will always dial in an extra f-stop to underexpose the background. Underexposing the background for me will give me a little bit more dynamic range. So I know most cameras have got a lot of dynamic range. However, the way I do that increases the dynamic range. So you're not muting the colors or you're not damaging the picture by underexposing it. But when you take it into your workflow, you can pull that detail back out in the shadows, and it creates a different type of perspective, more of a richer dynamic range. That's just a process that I use. I'm not saying it's the right way, but it's my way. So you can learn that in some of the videos that are coming up later. So using the Arri lights and the red heads, when you focus down the beam with the mirror on the back, it would illuminate the face, but it creates a sweet spot here. If you got it in the right place, this would all become very smooth and silky, great for retouching now, and it's the same technique I use now. Here are some of my tips for getting a fast track into fashion portrait advertising photography. Some of the things I think would be of benefit to you, not everything, but a little list like this: planning your shoot with mood boards, how to shoot suitable models, how to shoot your background on location, location versus studio or actually lighting. So I'm going to come on to those now. When you're putting a shoot together and you're trying to give everybody the same vision as yourself, a really great way of doing this is a mood board or mood boards. Now what that entails is just collating pictures of information and locations and things like that you bring onto a mood board. Now you can either do that on programs such as Note or on Pinterest, or actually just take the pictures down onto your hard drive, or you can bring them into Photoshop and create your own mood board on A4s, brand it up. I'll show you some stuff, brand it up, put your information on there, where it is, and then use that to collaborate with your team, your makeup artist, your stylist, your clients when you've gone out and done a recce in advance. It's really essential that a mood board allows people to all come together. So you can place a mood board down in front of people. You can collaborate before you present it to clients or to your models. You can collaborate with your makeup artist and your stylist. The stylist will look at your location, say, I think these items are great. The makeup artist will talk to you about the type of makeup. You pull all this into a mood board, you bring this and put this in front of the client, or you actually put it in front of the models and on the day, and then you'll talk about what you're trying to achieve. But it's a great focused document for people to feed off, and when you're starting to flag and your ideas are going, just take a break, go back to your mood board and you look at it and go, oh, right, okay, we'll start on this, and use it as a way of bouncing your ideas into your own shoot. Not to copy. A mood board is not about copying, it's about giving you creative vision of where you want to go and where you want your team to go. Another thing I think is really crucial, correctly selecting your model. Getting great pictures is teamwork, and part of the team is the model, so you've got to make sure you've got the right model. Make sure your model has an awareness about the body, about, you know, the way the arms bend, the way the arms move, the head moves. If you can get a model, doesn't have to be professional, it can be the next door neighbour, but they have a great presence on camera. What I mean by that, photogenic. Photogenic doesn't necessarily mean beautiful, it means somebody can hold their pose and their gaze in front of the camera and look good and make your shot look better. That for me is one of the most important things, because you can see so many shots, including some of mine early days, where you've got everything perfect, you've got the lighting right, you've got the clothing right, you've got the studio right, the location right, you put the model in there and they're a little bit robotic. The important part is like a ballerina. If the fingers and the thumbs and the wrists can bend like this, then you're going to get a better shot. But the model should have an awareness of their presence on camera. And if you can't find a decent model, then go for somebody who's used to be in front of the camera, such as an actor or an actress. They have a bit more of a stage presence. You can go to Spotlight, you can go to Star Now, before you even get into going to model agencies. And even when you're looking on social media and trying to DM people, make sure that they are photogenic, and you can see that from their pictures. Another valuable thing is choosing your location, be it studio or on location in an environment. Each one of those has its own set of challenges. So when you're choosing it, make sure that your mood board depicts what you want to do and understand the location that you're going to be working in. So for experienced people, even like myself, going into the studio is pretty daunting. Although I like studio and I can work in the studio, it still gives me a bit of a closed scene, similar backgrounds without set building, similar lighting. It's down to you and your interaction with the model that really makes it work. Because at the end of the day, it's a plain background. You have a grey background, a red background, a white background. Essentially, it's how you work with light and the model that makes it different. So as I said before, my particular famed and preferred way of working is on location. The reason for that is when you get to a location, even if you haven't done a recce, you do a recce in the moment, that gives you a set of challenges and opportunities. So never see it as a threat, see it as an opportunity. So going to a location for me is fantastic. You know, Iceland, for example, what a challenging location, -4 degrees, starting off raining, hammer and tongs first thing in the morning, battling with the elements and bringing those pictures back to base. I loved it. I'll be honest with you, studios for me are a little bit daunting because there's only so many variations. So if you're just in a niche that you're always continuing to shoot, such as beauty or lookbooks or things like that, then, you know, studio is great and you can keep on producing the same lighting, the same ideas. And you know, that's the sort of thing that you need to work out where your strengths are. Are you locational, or are you studio, or are you generic between the two and reasonably good at both of them, or specialize in one or the others? So lighting is a key thing, whether